Welcome to Company of Heroes 3 British Forces Faction Guide and Strategy. In this video we will go over all of the aspects of British Force as a faction. What you can expect to learn are all of the necessary intel, such as specific playstyle this faction has, weaknesses and strengths of faction, infantry and vehicle highlights, as well as strategy for playing them on the battlefield. Same like before, make sure to subscribe in order for this video to give you full scope of intel about all of the faction. Content of the video will include a general overview and feel of the faction, overview of buildings and units they can field, while main focus will be on tactics and possible strategies on how to best utilize all of the tools available. Before we start, make sure to check our DAK and Wehrmacht faction guide as well as other guides by clicking in the top right corner and a description down below. British Force is all-around simple faction with clear progression path and strong emphasis on infantry, more specifically their infantry section and artillery support. This is the faction with the most access to different off-map and map artillery or even air attacks. Most of their gameplay will revolve around your infantry, which on its own is really decent, but with weapon package upgrades will provide you with really powerful buffs. Because of the powerful basic infantry unit you have and their versatility in regards with weapons, you are in a really good position to dictate the fight and engage enemies first and with same effectiveness. In general, British forces are early to mid-game faction. When we compare British forces with Wehrmacht or DAK, for example, their specialized anti-infantry units are stronger than your basic infantry section. However, your infantry section is much more and much better balanced and sturdy enough that when upgraded, it can hold its ground long enough. Also, British forces have access to only one infantry unit, if we do not count commanders, but you will have access to many different support units which are built around bolstering your infantry and your basic infantry performance. With support of other support weapons and units, they can get the upper hand really easily against Germans. But, there is always a but, you will have easier progression than they have, and in order for them to reach full battle state ready, you should be proactive before that and do as much damage as you can. Also, your artillery support ability is ready from the get-go and can be called in without any commanders by your infantry or your light vehicles for a really cheap price and a low cooldown. British forces, on the other hand, has a hard counter to DAK. Their infantry section with boys anti-tank rifles will shred through all of the vehicles DAK will field all the way up to the Tiger tank. British forces also have a unique upgrade system beside the weapons which they can get from the basic units, and these are giving them a bunch of passives like rate of fire or accuracy, etc. when they are upgraded. These upgrades can be unlocked in training center, which you must construct, and they are grouped in 4 different groups. First group is affecting all of the infantry units, second group is affecting all of the support weapons, third will affect all of the light vehicles, and fourth one will affect all of the tanks. Another ability which British forces have is that they can refund their full cost for vehicles once they reach tier 3. They can repurpose tanks on the field back to the HQ and get all of the resources back. With regards to commanders, off the bat, every commander gives them great access to off-map artillery call-ins, and basically every unit they can get from these commanders is there just for the purpose of supporting infantry section and their all-around build. They have really decent options, but we will go more about these in a commander section in a bit. Main strength of British forces is their upgraded infantry section, which has access to convert itself to any specialized unit you want. They can be either anti-tank, anti-infantry or infantry backbone support unit. They also have access to cheap and semi-competitive tanks, which they can mass produce and just keep on pumping against the German faction. Their engineers are also really great early game unit, which can, if used properly, do a lot of damage. Up close and in cover, they will do ungodly damage against Wehrmacht and DAK, especially if their infantry is not positioned properly. We also need to mention artillery call-ins from both start of the game and the commanders you can get. Speaking about weaknesses, there are not many and obvious ones, but we could point out that if early game starts badly, you will feel it much more than other factions. Also, we could mention that enemy anti-infantry specialized units in mass can overwhelm you, and once fully built, German armies can get an upper hand in 1v1 against you. Before we start, there is a quick mention that regarding the building overview and build, you have to unlock each tier in order it is placed, and you cannot skip any tiers to go and jump. Now, speaking about tier 0 or your HQ, you can get Pioneers or Vickers MG. Additionally, you can unlock healing for infantry from this tier. Also, from this building, you will unlock Training Center, which will enable you to upgrade your infantry, support weapons, light vehicles and tanks as we spoke. From tier 1, you can get Infantry Section, Mortar and Dingo light truck. From tier 2, you can get anti-tank 7-pounder gun, Humber armored car, cargo truck, Steward light tank and Bishop self-propelled artillery. Cargo truck, like in enemy faction, can be converted to AA or healing truck. From tier 3, you can get Foot Guard sections, which are anti-tank infantry units, Crusader medium tank, Matilda heavy tank, M3 Grand medium tank and 17-pounder AT. Commanders of British forces are focusing on providing your infantry sections with adequate support abilities and units in order to support the core army you have. The reason is quite simple. Your infantry section is the backbone of the army from start until the end of the game, and everything is in subordination to this. First commander we will speak about is Indian Artillery Battlegroup. He is the best commander for pure infantry gameplay and artillery support. You will gain really powerful passives in a form of, for example, 33% cheaper and faster infantry reinforcement and bonus resources when killing enemies with your infantry. You also have access to Gorkha specialized infantry, which focuses on fighting enemies up close or at range, great off-map artillery and ability to make an artillery emplacement on the map as well. From all of this we can see that this commander is basically making your core unit cheaper and giving them access to more support tools in order to grind down the enemy. Next commander is British Armoured Battlegroup, and as it says in the title, they are giving you access to some heavy armor units and bonuses that will revolve around vehicle buffs. However, note that even though this commander is purely giving buffs to your vehicles, it does touch a little bit on Pioneers, giving them a little bit of a buff in a survivability. However, this is still not going to change your playstyle, which is infantry section heavy. The highlight of this battle group are two Churchill heavy tanks, which to be frank are really slow and not so decisively impactful as you would expect. By the time you get them, enemy will have maybe Flak 88 or even a Tiger, or enough AT capability to face the Churchills which you will get. It can be a good meat shield though. Last commander which we will speak about is British Air and Sea Battlegroup. This commander is opposite to the British Armour Battlegroup, where it is providing you only with infantry specialized unit in a shape of commando pair drops. These dudes are really good at up close and have a special camouflage ability allowing them to be stealthy. They can also pair drop pack howitzer and MG to the field. Also, you have an ability to call in Comet howitzer tank, which is also focusing only on grinding down enemy infantry. The highlight of these commanders are loiter aircrafts, which can be called in to patrol the area and they will devastate all and every enemy unit they can see, going from tanks to infantry. Early game for British forces is really simple and linear every time. There are few possible build options, but not in regards of selecting different order, but rather which vehicle or first infantry unit you will select. So to start from the beginning, for British forces, few things are important in early game. At the start of the game you can out-trade German infantry, so play smart and utilize cover with infantry section off the get-go. they will get additional bonus when they are fighting enemy infantry which is outside the cover. Also, in early game you can get and should use your pioneers aggressively as they are really potent early game. It is also important to get ammo at the start, as your early game will be ammo heavy, because we want to build up our infantry section to proper fighting capacity. Speaking of these upgrades for infantry section, I found out that you need to have a healthy balance of upgrades. First of all, you will need 4 sections for a proper play, and upgrades should be evenly spread between 2 sections with anti-tank or anti-vehicle boys upgrade and 2 sections with Bren guns package. If you are fighting Duck, anti-vehicle boys guns should be upgraded first. If you are fighting Wehrmacht, then you should go for Brens. Why we have not mentioned Scout package in this upgrade, which will give you 2 Enfield scope weapon, is that they will not scale well in late game, and the main bonus which they will give you, you can also get from the light vehicles. There is an important note though guys, and that is your infantry section at the start of the game, they have 6 men, but 1 guy out of those 6 is an officer and he has a pistol. But when you upgrade them with the upgrade packages you select, he will leave that damn toy away and get a proper gun. So he will leave the pistol and get the rifle, so he will do more damage. Another important component of early game is that you should rush light vehicles. They are really good support unit which you really need to basically tip the odds, especially when Germans go and start building those specialized units. I advise you to get Humber truck because it will unlock on Veteran C1 ability to call in artillery for 44 ammo, and it is a really good performer. And this is the reason why we didn't get the Scout package for our infantry section, because this light vehicle will basically get that same ability, which is the highlight of that package. This vehicle is competitive with 8 rad. 8 rad will kill it, but in a performance against infantry they are really competitive. Steward is a waste of money and waste of resources, as it is not a great performer against infantry and evenly bad against vehicles, and not to speak that as time passes later on he will not scale really well. Following all of this, you can select your next unit based on what you need. So while we are waiting for a fuel to tick up so we can build the last tier, you can select and consider, do you need an AT gun, do you need a mortar, or maybe even an additional MG. So following creation of 4 sections, following light vehicle, decide what do you need on the field, MG, mortar or AT. Late game is also simple. At this stage, German factions will probably stabilize their force and will have a large variety of specialists to engage you. But not everything is so grim, and the reason is simple. You can outgrind German faction with cheap but competitive support weapon and units. Plus, your infantry sections are easily accessible and when in firefight can adjust to encounters faster. To give you just an example for this is, your Crusader is 60 fuel, while Panzer is 90 fuel. And when fight starts, your Crusaders can go toe to toe against the Germans. But if they are struggling, your infantry sections can easily jump in and tick the scale with whoever you are fighting. While ticking the scale, they are still sturdy enough that German, for example anti-infantry specialized unit, will not wipe them out of the field so easily. However, cheap support units and sturdy infantry section are not the only strength you have for late game. It is actually a wide array of artillery support you have. Your light vehicle will be able to call artillery strike every half a minute to constantly bombard the enemy. Also, your off-map artillery will provide enough firepower to answer to any serious engagement enemies have, and you can almost keep constant barrages at the enemy. Not to mention, if you are in 3v3 or 4v4 and in late game you have several other British forces in your team, we can all time that we have constant barrage on that middle VP, which we are always gonna fight in last 100 points against the opponent. So basically we can keep barraging one section, 1 point throughout the late game almost every 10 seconds if we spread our units properly throughout the team. In this case, your infantry section basically becomes an observation unit because they will just stand there and give you the sight. Speaking about infantry and weapon highlights, we need to say infantry section, the Tommies are the one and only highlight you need to have in this section. They are specialized for everything and you get them from the start. Just so that they do not feel alone, commanders are also a good close range unit, which when manages to get up and personal without losing too much of the manpower are really good. Speaking about vehicle highlights, Humber Armored Light Car is my favorite light vehicle in the game. It is mobile, does really good damage against infantry and provides excellent ability. Most notable is cheap artillery calling for 45 ammo and smoke grenades they have. Another mention in vehicle section is Crusader Medium Tank. This cheap bugger will be the pesky little stinger that will annoy your enemies. They are best used in packs like Hungry Wolves and just pushing through regardless of losses, because as soon as they die, you will replace them. They will quickly be replaced with new buggers and they are really cheap.